Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Nerd Mode On, and welcome to episode 13 of Battle Tested, a video series where I take user-submitted loadouts and check and see if they'd be viable on the battlefield. Now, for this particular episode, I decided to opt for using a submission by myself, so the primary weapon is going to be the UMP-45 with the red dot sight. The secondary weapon is going to be the Deagle 44 with the red dot sight, green laser, as well as the heavy barrel. Gadget 1 is going to be the RPG. Gadget 2 is going to be the repair tool. The grenade type is going to be the M67 frag grenade. The knife is going to be the seal. And last but not least, the field upgrade path is going to be defensive. Now, of course, looking back, I probably would have made some alterations to my Gadget 2, considering that the repair tool, while it's a very effective tool at repairing vehicles, unfortunately it's not too great at killing players. Now, of course, that's not to say that you are not able to kill players, but there are some other gadgets that I feel like would be a little bit better, especially at trying to distract oppositional players into going to a specific part of the map. And in that particular case, I feel like the DS3 decoy would have been a lot better, considering that I'm playing on infantry heavy maps, so I can kind of lure players into certain locations on the map and take full advantage while using an engineer weapon. Now, of course, with all that information kind of talked about, let's take a little bit of a look at the UMP-45, considering that it actually took me by storm by how effective this weapon actually is. Starting things off, the rounds per minute is 600 rounds per minute for the UMP-45. Now, of course, that's really nothing to write home about. It's actually one of the lowest available in this particular category, so that does make it a little bit hampered by the overall performance that it could occupy. Now, alongside that, it does have a velocity clocking in at 340 meters per second, which is again very low in comparison to its competitors. So of course, these two things coupled together is really going to decrease your performance at range. However, for balancing reasons, we'll quickly get to some information that's going to kind of give you guys some hope, and it's kind of a silver lining to the overall performance of this weapon. So of course, if we kind of indulge ourselves into the damage model for the UMP-45, you guys will quickly notice that it does have a maximum damage of 30 damage up until 8 meters. Now after 8 meters, of course, you're going to see a gradual decline of the overall damage being outputted at range, and of course the minimum damage that you will see is 15.4, and that is achieved at 50 meters. Now, of course, to put that into layman's terms, all that really means is that the UMP-45 is going to require anywhere from 4 to 7 bullets to down the oppositional player. Now, while that may not strike you as being very competitive, considering that there are a lot of other weapons that have other great attributes that have been assigned to them in the rounds per minute model, the damage model, and even the velocity figures, I've really found myself to really enjoy this weapon, considering that I remember it from the initial stages of Battlefield 4 being significantly worse than what is currently present. And as a due result of these alterations, I feel like it's a really fun weapon to use. Of course, it's very iconic. You guys have probably seen it in a lot of different video games, considering that it consistently finds itself into pretty much all the major AAA shooters. But of course, it also silently promotes the ability to pie around corners without exposing yourself to the opposition too early. So I do feel like that's kind of a neat attribute to the weapon. Of course, Battlefield never really pushes the envelope in this area, but I feel like it's still something that you can mentally kind of give yourself some satisfaction for. Now, moving right along, the UMP-45 does have a short reload clocking in at 1.85 seconds and a long reload clocking in at 2.5 seconds. So when it really comes down to it, the UMP-45 does have the ability in both of these areas to be the fastest of its category. Now, of course, when you consider that there are quite a bit of submachine guns in Battlefield 4, this is actually pretty noteworthy and is actually really impressive. And last but not least, let's quickly bring up some of the recoil patterns, considering that this is the most prominent information that you guys as a player will run into, especially when it comes down to the battlefield. Now, the UMP-45 does have a left pole of .18 as well as a right pole of .18. However, the vertical recoil is listed as 0.38, so that basically means that the weapon is going to be kicking vertically and not so much horizontally. Now, while most of the weapons in this category do have a sufficient recoil first shot multiplier, this particular weapon is actually clocking in at 1.65 times. So when it comes down to it, as a player, you guys will notice that this weapon is going to be kicking vertically a lot more than it is in any other direction. And of course, if you're playing on PC, you can simply pull down on the mouse, or if you're on console, you can quickly pull the analogs down a little bit, and you'll at least be a little bit more accurate while at medium range. So of course, with all the information kind of talked about when it comes down to the statistics, I feel like the UMP-45 actually took me by storm. I was not expecting the weapon to be as great as it was, considering that I remember it from the initial stages of Battlefield 4 having some limitations. Now, of course, that is not to say that the UMP-45 is all of a sudden a god weapon and you're going to be able to shoot down the sun and make it a nighttime map, but it does have some great attributes that I quickly found to be very enjoyable for the engineer category. Having the ability to dish out a lot of damage, especially for a submachine gun, is very cool, especially when it comes down to close quarters combat. The negative attributes of this weapon really don't lend themselves to being very good at medium and long range, considering that they are very limited in those particular areas. However, the fast reload speeds allow you to be very aggressive, and of course you're not really going to notice the imperfections of the rounds per minute as well as the bullet velocity at those ranges. So I feel like if you're somebody that likes to be very aggressive, you're going to quickly notice that this weapon does allow you to be aggressive and also be successful at the same expense. Now, while the UMP-45 may be a very iconic weapon in a lot of different games, and in some particular games it's been labeled as overpowered, just kind of depends on the overall series you're playing and the particular map that it is located in, you may quickly find that the UMP-45 may become one of your favorite weapons. Now, it is unlikely that the UMP-45 will overnight become a fan favorite, considering that there are different weapons in the engineer category that are much better. However, if you're looking for a different experience and you really want to push forward with trying to get 500 kills with every single weapon in Battlefield 4, then of course this is definitely a weapon that I would recommend using. It may not be the best weapon in the entire game, but it definitely does have its place on my top 5 engineer weapons, and I felt like it was a really fun weapon to use, and I wish I would have found it a lot earlier than I did. But anyway guys, I just kind of wanted to showcase a weapon that maybe you guys haven't used in quite some time, and overall I feel like it was a very fun weapon to use, and I actually had a really good time recording for it. But with that said, if you guys would like to recommend a loadout request for the next episode, feel free to let me know in the comments below using a similar format. And of course, until the next episode, guys, this has been NMO, and I'm going to be signing out, guys. Peace.